I bought all this for my granddaughter, and her mother is a beggar.
The September 1st celebratory assembly was supposed to be a joyful occasion for the whole family. But instead of a celebratory atmosphere, the parents heard a loud declaration from one of the grandmothers. "I bought everything for my granddaughter, and her mother is a poor loser." The words were so harsh that everyone around froze in embarrassment. At home, the situation only worsened when the unemployed husband came to his mother's defense. Good day, dear listeners. This is Andre Belli, and I'm pleased to welcome you to the channel Revelation of Daughters-in-Law. I present to you a new, interesting story. Enjoy listening. Elena stood by the kitchen window, stirring her coffee and watching the children play in the yard. Tomorrow was September 1st, and she still didn't have money for a school uniform for Elisa. For a week now, her daughter had been asking about the new dress her grandmother had promised. And each time Elena's answers were vague, hoping Inga Borisovna would actually buy what she promised. The last few months had been particularly difficult. Maxim lost his job in April and hadn't been in any rush to find a new one, preferring to spend time with friends or help his mother with the housework. Elena worked as an administrator at a dental clinic, earning 45,000 rubles. But this money was barely enough to cover utilities, groceries, and basic necessities. Inga Borisovna regularly reminded her son's family of their dire financial situation, emphasizing that it was Elena's fault. She claimed that because her wife couldn't create a comfortable environment for her husband, he couldn't find suitable work. Meanwhile, her mother-in-law worked as a chief accountant at a large retail company, earned a decent salary, and wasn't shy about bragging about it. Last week, when it became clear that there was a catastrophic shortage of money for school supplies, Inga Borisovna generously offered to buy her granddaughter everything she needed, but only on the condition that she choose the store herself, do the shopping herself, and not take anyone with her. Elena agreed, though she tensed internally at the wording. On the evening of August 31st, her mother-in-law arrived with huge packages. Elisa joyfully rushed to unpack the gifts. School uniforms, white blouses, shoes, a backpack, stationery. Everything was high quality and expensive. But Elena noticed how Inga Borisovna pointedly told her granddaughter the price of each item. The dress costs 8,000, the shoes cost 5, the backpack costs 7. Remember, Elisa, your grandmother buys you all this because she loves you. Your mother, apparently, is incapable of such expenses. Elena swallowed her resentment and thanked her mother-in-law. Maxim sat in a chair, scrolling through his phone, and didn't react at all to his mother's sarcasm directed at his wife. September 1st turned out to be sunny. Elisa was delighted with her new outfit and proudly showed off her beautiful backpack to her classmates. Elena stood among the other parents, listening to the principal's speech, and felt quite happy. Her daughter looked no worse than the other children. The school year was starting off well. Everything turned sour when the mother of Elisa's classmate, Tatiana, approached them. They met back in the spring at a parent-teacher meeting and occasionally called each other to discuss school matters. "What a beautiful uniform Elisa has," Tatiana sincerely admired. "And her backpack is simply stunning. What store did you buy it at?" Elena was about to answer, but Inga Borisovna, who had quietly approached and overheard the question, cut her off. "I bought all this for my granddaughter, and her mother is a poor loser," the mother-in-law declared loudly. Her voice was loud enough for all the parents standing nearby to hear. You understand, not all parents have the means to properly provide for their children. An awkward silence fell. Tatiana looked away, embarrassed, and the other parents began to stare at the asphalt beneath their feet. Elisa blushed and pressed herself against her mother. Elena felt her face flush with both shame and anger. "Inga Borisovna, why are you talking like that?" she said quietly, trying not to raise her voice in front of the child. "What did I say?" Her mother-in-law shrugged innocently. "Is it true, or do you think it's wrong to tell the truth?" After the assembly, they walked home in silence. Elisa held her mother's hand and occasionally glanced at her with a worried look. Maxim smoked and pretended nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Inga Borisovna, looking pleased, told her granddaughter what other gifts she planned to buy for New Year's. At home, Elena went into the kitchen and began preparing dinner. Her hands shook with nervous tension. Her mother-in-law's words swirled around in her head. A poor loser in front of all her parents, in front of her own daughter. Maxim walked his mother to the bus stop and returned openly aggressive. Elena immediately realized the conversation would be unpleasant. "What are you doing?" he began without even greeting her. "A mother buys her daughter things worth 20,000 and you're still unhappy." "Maxim, this isn't about money, this is about how she humiliated me in front of people. She humiliated me and she told the truth. We really don't have money for such purchases. It's not her fault that you can't earn a decent living. I can't earn a decent living. And what are you doing for the family? You've been sitting at home for 4 months. It's none of your business," Maxim yelled. "You should be grateful to my mother for helping. Instead of gratitude, you create scandals." Elena looked at her husband and suddenly realized she couldn't live like this anymore. She couldn't tolerate humiliation from her mother-in-law and indifference from her own husband. She couldn't hear every day what a bad wife and mother she was. "But," she said calmly, "they'll get their thanks the next day." Maxim looked at his wife in confusion, not understanding what her words meant. But there was something in Elena's voice that silenced him. The next morning, Elena woke up early. Maxim was still asleep, and Lisa was getting ready for school. Elena helped her daughter with breakfast, saw her off, and immediately got to work. First, she packed everything Inga Borisovna had bought for Elisa the day before. The school uniform, blouses, shoes, backpack, and stationery, carefully placing everything in the bags they'd arrived in. Then she pulled out an old school sarafan from the closet, the one she'd worn in 9th grade and which had miraculously survived. It was simple, dark blue, a little dated in style, but perfectly acceptable. She paired it with a white blouse Alicia had bought last year and black shoes left over from 1st grade, but not yet too small. She found an old backpack in the closet, the one Alicia had carried to 1st grade. It was pink, with princesses on it, clearly not appropriate for 4th grade, but she had no other. At 11 a.m., when Maxim finally woke up, Elena was ready to go. "Where are you going?" he asked, seeing his wife in her jacket. "To convey your gratitude to your mother, just like you asked." Maxim didn't understand but didn't bother to elaborate. He was used to his wife occasionally visiting her mother-in-law for various matters. The walk to Inga Borisovna's house took half an hour. Elena rode the bus, heavy bags on her lap, feeling a strange calm. For the first time in months, she knew she was doing the right thing. Inga Borisovna opened the door in a robe and slippers, clearly not expecting guests. "Elena, what are you doing here? Has something happened?" "Hello, Inga Borisovna. I brought thanks for yesterday's gifts." My mother-in-law looked at the bags in her daughter-in-law's hands, puzzled. "Come in, tell me what kind of thanks you gave me." Elena went into the living room and put the bags on the floor. "Here are your gifts. We're returning them." "What do you mean, returning them? Are you nuts?" "It's very simple. Yesterday, in front of all my parents, you called me a poor loser. We explained to everyone that it was only thanks to your generosity that my daughter looked presentable. Maxim said I should be grateful for that. This is my gratitude." Inga Borisovna opened her mouth, but Elena continued calmly. "I don't want Elisa to wear things that are bought with the understanding that her mother will be humiliated. I don't want her to think this kind of treatment is normal. So take everything back." "Are you crazy?" The mother-in-law was indignant. "How will the girl go to school? That's none of your problem. She has other clothes at Bykos's." "What other clothes?" "Some old junk." "Yes, junk, but bought without humiliation." Elena turned and headed for the exit. Inga Borisovna's indignant voice came from behind her. "Wait, you can't do this. It's the child who's suffering. The child suffered yesterday when she heard her grandmother call her mother a loser. But you didn't care." Elena left the apartment, closing the door behind her. Her hands shook in the elevator, but her heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. At home, she changed the clothes she'd brought for Elisa that morning. The old sundress had to be hemmed. It was a bit long. The pink backpack looked really childish, but it fit all the necessary textbooks. When Elisa came home from school, Elena explained the situation as simply as possible. "We didn't return gifts to Grandma. Some gifts are too expensive. Mom, what should I wear to school tomorrow?" "What we prepared." "Look." Alice carefully examined the old sundress and backpack. Elena expected disappointment and tears, but her daughter unexpectedly smiled. "You know, I don't like this sundress any better. It's less itchy, and the backpack has beautiful princesses." Maxim returned home that evening in a state of righteous anger. His mother, of course, had already told him everything. "What are you doing?" he yelled from the doorway. "Your mother bought her daughter 20,000 worth of clothes, and you threw them out." "Not thrown them out but returned them. These are two different things. Don't be smart. Now your daughter will walk around in rags, and all the kids will laugh at her. But at least her mother won't walk around humiliated." "What humiliation? Just words." Elena gave her husband a long look. "Maxim, if you're okay with your mother calling your wife a poor loser in front of strangers, then we have nothing to talk about." She was telling the truth. "We really don't have any money." "Then go to your mother, she'll provide for you." Maxim fell silent. There was something final in her words that made him pause. But the habit of taking her mother's side proved stronger. "Tomorrow you'll take everything back and apologize." "No, what do you mean, no? I won't take it back and I won't apologize." Maxim left to swear after 3 days. During those days, Elena thought a lot about marriage, about family, about the example she was setting for her daughter, about whether it was possible to live with a man who wasn't even willing to protect her from his own mother. When my husband returned, the conversation was brief. His mother was demanding an apology, she couldn't wait. Then she'd never buy Alice anything again. "Fine. We'll manage on our own." "How can we manage? Your salary is 45,000, and yours is 0. So either you go to work or go live with your mother forever." Maxim tried to protest, but he saw something in his wife's eyes that made him seriously consider the situation. The next day, he got a job as a loader in a warehouse. The work was hard, the pay was low, but it was better than nothing. Elena applied for a promotion at her clinic, and a month later, she was promoted to senior administrator with a salary of 60,000 rubles. At first, Inga Borisovna tried to pressure him through her son, demanding a meeting, an apology, and the return of the gifts, but Elena was adamant. The mother-in-law received neither an apology nor any submission. Gradually the tension subsided. Maxim realized that his wife was truly prepared to file for divorce if the humiliation continued. Working in the warehouse was hard, but it taught him to appreciate what he had. Elisa wore an old sundress and had no inhibitions about it. Her classmates, it turned out, didn't pay any attention to what she was wearing. However, the teacher repeatedly noted that the girl had become more self-confident. By New Year's, Elena had saved up enough money for a beautiful dress for Elisa. They bought it together at a children's clothing store, and Elisa chose the color and style herself. It was a completely different shopping experience, without lectures about who pays and without humiliation. Inga Borisovna found out about the new dress and tried to renew her advances. "You see, in the end, I bought it myself. And if I could have bought it a year ago, it would have been better," Elena agreed. "But then I would have had to listen to everyone telling me I was a bad mother all year. And how generous you are. Why are you so childish? You think just words. Words are actions too. And I don't want my daughter to think it's normal for her mother to suffer humiliation." 2 years later, Maxim got a new job with a salary of 70,000. Elena received another promotion. The family's financial situation stabilized, and the need for her mother-in-law's help completely disappeared. Inga Borisovna tried several times to restore the old order, giving her granddaughter gifts with the obligatory comment that her mother couldn't afford them. But Elisa, who was 11 by then, learned to respond, "Grandma, Mom can buy me everything I need. If you give a gift, give it simply without lecturing." Maxim no longer demanded gratitude from his wife for her mother. He realized that family needed to be protected, not left vulnerable. Work had changed him. He became more serious, she more responsible. He learned to consider the consequences of his words. Elena sometimes thought about the day she wrapped up all the expensive gifts and returned them. Back then, she felt like she was risking everything. Her family, her relationship with her husband, her daughter's well-being. But in reality, she was defending what mattered most: her dignity and the right to be respected in her own family. Elisa grew into a girl who knows her worth and doesn't allow anyone to humiliate her. Perhaps this was the most important lesson she learned that September, when her mother returned her grandmother's gifts. Inga Borisovna never understood what exactly she had done wrong. Sometimes she complained to friends about her ungrateful daughter-in-law, who had refused expensive gifts over some trivial matter. But gradually, even these conversations died down. For some reason, listeners didn't show the expected sympathy for the generous mother-in-law. The gratitude Inga Borisovna received the day after her statement at the school assembly was exactly what she deserved. And this lesson was remembered by all participants in the events for many years.